In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Adorable Will, I want to pray these titles, but I am unable to do it. Come and do it with me, and I'll do everything well. Jesus and Mary, I thank you and I esteem you, one with Luisa, Jesus' daughter, dearest daughter of his will. Luisa, creature in whose center God finds himself. Luisa, creature who imitates God and finds herself in his divine center. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, one who lives in the divine will and receives as nature the good of being able to always walk. Luisa, repeater of the same life of God. Luisa, one who makes the good descend on all generations. Luisa, what she does is incalculable. Luisa, cooperator of the triune God's life. Luisa, by whose littleness the triune God feels their life repeated. Luisa, the divine love's beloved creature. Luisa, who has given the triune God everything. Luisa, to whom the triune God has given everything. Luisa, who brings the triune God their immensity everywhere. Luisa, who possesses the divine life. Luisa, to whom the triune God entrusted the task of repeating their same divine life. Luisa, who the divine beauty invests. Luisa, tiny one who the triune God forms around their rivers of love, power, and beauty. Luisa, tiny one who, with her efforts, entanglements, and with her say, wounds, enraptures, and enchains the triune God. Luisa, tiny one to whom God adapts himself. Luisa, who God's divine being remains inside and outside of, inseparable from her. Luisa, everything is hers. Luisa, the tiny one. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter that he finds in the arms of his divine will. Luisa, possessor of the divine will's labors. Luisa, daughter who is rich. Luisa, within whom forms and acquires a link of union with the Creator that encloses God and the soul. Luisa, whose link makes her live one single life with God and forms their inseparability. Luisa, bond of divine stability and immutability. Luisa, creature not subject to changing, firm and stable in the bosom of her celestial Father. Luisa, who possesses perennial fecundity and continuously generates love, goodness, fortitude, grace, patience, sanctity, all the divine virtues that possess the bilocating virtue, and gives them to whoever she wants. Luisa, filled to the brim with the divine being. Luisa, who feels in herself the fullness of the life of her Creator. Luisa, who feels the divine life flow in torrents in her being. Luisa, who feels the fullness and totality of the Supreme Being. Luisa, who places herself in the divine conditions of not being able to do anything other than complete acts. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, one who forms the dwelling of the Supreme Volition. Jesus and Mary, I esteem you and I honor you, one with Luisa, who cedes the rights of command voluntarily to the divine will. Luisa, custodian of the divine volition. Luisa, defense of the divine volition. Luisa, comfort of the divine volition. Luisa, honored dwelling that the Fiat will decorate with divine trimmings. Luisa, whose dwelling will form the divine will's royal palace, that the angels themselves will remain amazed. Luisa, in whose human will the divine will shall make a display of its love. Luisa, in whose human will the divine will shall make a display of its sanctity. Luisa, in whose human will the divine will shall make a display of its light. Luisa, in whose human will the divine will shall make a display of its uncreated beauty. Luisa, in whose human will the divine will shall form its life and its operating life. Luisa, to whom Jesus administered the first material of the first knowledges and truths of his divine will in order to form the operating life of the divine will. Luisa, of whom Jesus had the aim of completing great designs that will help the whole entire world. Luisa, Jesus' good daughter. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, who repeated for the triune God the joys that they experienced in creating man. Luisa, who has formed the new bonds of union between the divine will and the human. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, who acquired new life. Luisa, who acquired divine ways. Luisa, who acquired celestial science. Luisa, who acquired penetration of the most profound things. Luisa, who became refined. Luisa, who became embellished. Luisa, who in God's creative hands became like suitable canvas in the hands of the painter. Luisa, elevated by the use of divine brushes to such a height and rare beauty to make her admired by so many generations in a way that all will call her beautiful. Luisa, one who has the good of looking at her and at all the new acts received by God, will feel happy in virtue of what she has worked in the divine volition. Luisa, who all will extol. Luisa, all will sing her praises. Luisa, all will make her known as the most beautiful work of the divine Fiat. Luisa, who places herself in the act of receiving the divine will's sanctity and light. Luisa, who places herself in the act of living of the goods of the one whom she lives together with. Luisa, who acquired the hearing to hear the divine will. Luisa, who acquired the voice to speak about the divine will. Luisa, who acquired the mind to comprehend the divine will. Luisa, who acquired the trust in the divine way to ask for everything and receive everything. Luisa, who is all eyes over the goods she possesses, and thanks the one who abased itself to live with her. Luisa, the one who knows and possesses the divine will, and it forms her fortune and her glory. Jesus and Mary, I honor you and I cherish you, one with Luisa, who knows the divine will and is all ears in listening to it. Luisa, who knows the divine will and is all eyes in order to look at it. Luisa, who knows the divine will and is all heart to love it. Luisa, who knows the divine will and is all tongue in order to speak of it. Luisa, Jesus' beloved creature. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, creature who remains in the sea of the divine Fiat, and who the triune God's adorable majesty lowers itself even to descend into her depths. Luisa, who invades everything. Luisa, who calls everything, heaven and earth, to do honor to the divine will's acts completed in the human littleness. Luisa, one who possesses the life of divine will and receives continuous life from God. Luisa, one who has sanctity in her power. Luisa, one who has grace in her power. Luisa, one who has wisdom in her power. Luisa, one who has goodness in her power. Luisa, one who has everything in her power. Luisa, all the littlest particles of her being contain the omnipotent Fiat. Luisa, one who palpitates Fiat. Luisa, one whose thoughts are impressed with the Fiat. Luisa, one who hears the Fiat flowing in her voice. Luisa, one who speaks of the Fiat. Luisa, one whose works are kneaded with the Fiat. Luisa, one whose steps say Fiat. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, whose acts form the channel for the divine will to find the way, place, and where to enclose its goods. Luisa, whose acts can be a channel of grace, light, and sanctity that she lends to the divine will. Luisa, proprietor of the goods that the divine will encloses in her act that flows for the good of everyone. Luisa, beloved creature. Luisa, creature who enters into the divine banks and makes her traffics of infinite value. Luisa, little who becomes as owner and acts as owner of what God's divine banks possess. Luisa, creature who opens the commerce between heaven and earth and places in traffic God's sanctity, power, goodness, and love. Luisa, the triune God's beloved creature. Luisa, good daughter. Luisa, blessed daughter of Jesus' will. Luisa, blessed daughter. Luisa, who holds in her littleness the little sea of the divine volition inside of her and its immense sea outside of her. Luisa, who swims in the great one, sea of the divine volition. Luisa, who feels reborn to new life and acquires new recognition of He who created her. Luisa, who feels reloved even more by her celestial Father and rises in new love for Him. Jesus and Mary, I cherish you and I love you, one with Luisa, the daughter who knows her Father, wants to know Him more, and does not want to do anything without His will. Luisa, who the Divine Father calls His daughter, to keep her together with Him and form of her a model of His. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, creature who feels happy, rich, powerful, holy. Luisa, who feels the trousseau of the good acts of others, and loves for everyone. Luisa, who glorifies the divine Fiat as if the good acts of others were hers. Luisa, in whom the divine will forms its divine encampment. Luisa, the divine will's fortunate creator. Luisa, in whose depth of soul the divine will takes its royal place. Luisa, the triune God's joy. Luisa, bearer of glory and triumph for the triune God's creative work. Luisa, Jesus' good daughter. Luisa, Jesus' good daughter. Luisa, one who continuously calls God and all his attributes. Luisa, who in always calling God forms the sweet enchantment of her Creator himself. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, creature in whom a little paradise is formed, where the Supreme Being delights to descend in order to make his sojourn. Luisa, creature in whom a little paradise is formed, in which the Supreme Being finds their harmonies. Luisa, creature in whom a little paradise is formed, in which the Supreme Being finds the beauty that enraptures them, the pure joys that double their happiness. Luisa, in whose little circle is formed an additional life of the Supreme Being. Luisa, creature in whom a little paradise is formed, where the Supreme Being finds everything. Everything is theirs. Luisa, creature in whom a little paradise is formed, where the Supreme Being finds the littleness that enamors them more. Luisa, creature in whom a little paradise is formed, where the Supreme Being contemplates their divine art, that in the little, by virtue of their own power, have enclosed the great. Luisa, in whom the Supreme Being transmuted the great in the little in the great. Luisa, fortunate creature who the divine Fiat overshadows with its power. Luisa, who the operating Fiat molds and needs in its divine life. Luisa, in whom all goods, virtue, prayers, love, sanctity are converted into nature and are springs that form in her, that always rise, that of which she feels the owner. Luisa, creature who feels that God is all hers. Luisa, who feels that God has given himself to her mercy in virtue of the divine will she possesses. Luisa, creature who feels God as a birth of her. Luisa, creature who raises God with such finesse of love and of profound adoration that she remains as naturally absorbed in her Creator. Luisa, creature who would want to give the divine will as life to everyone in order to render everyone happy and holy. Luisa, daughter together with the celestial Mama, loves Jesus as his Mama loves him. Luisa, whose littleness and infant ways in the divine will embrace everyone and everything. Luisa, who wants to give Jesus everything, even the adorable Trinity itself. And because she is little, no one wants to deny her anything. Luisa, tiny little one who all unite themselves with, and they love together with her. Luisa, who by bringing Jesus, everyone into the all, and by loving him, diffuses the all into everyone. Luisa, the soul in whom Jesus finds his paradise. Luisa, the soul in whom Jesus finds his works and everything. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, one who, in possessing the divine will as life, feels in herself the divine motion. Luisa, possessor of the divine will, who feels inside of her the life, the nobility, and the way of he who has created her. Jesus and Mary, I love you, and glory to my Creator, one with Luisa, who the divine will occupies so much that it gives her its love to make her love. Luisa, who the divine will occupies so much that it gives her its word to make her speak. Luisa, who the divine will occupies so much that it gives her its motion to make her move and operate. Luisa, to whom all is revealed. Luisa, to whom the divine will makes the great surprise of the divine being. Luisa, God's beloved creature, with who he has his true divine wedding, and to whom he cedes his divine being. Luisa, one who forms the celestial kingdom on earth, enriched with goodness, peace, and grace. Luisa, who can call herself the noble part. Luisa, the triune God's daughter in the midst of their works. Luisa, daughter who the triune God created everything for and gave everything to, so she could possess and enjoy them. Luisa, who the triune God gives their embraces of love from their divine bosom. Luisa, who repeats to the triune God what they did for her. Luisa, collector of all of the triune God's works. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, who makes everything hers and loves, adores, and repeats what innocent Adam did. Luisa, who receives the transmission of the love of the divine acts into her and continues to do what was done in the Supreme Being. Luisa, who the current of divine life and love keep besieged and as fused in her Creator. Luisa, celestial creature who is the Supreme Being's occupation. Luisa, celestial creature who is the Supreme Being's continuous labor. Luisa, one who always gives her Creator something to do. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, who feels the divine will's divine life, sanctity, its uncreated heartbeat. Luisa, one who the divine will always repours itself over without ever ceasing. Luisa, happy creature who lets the divine will reign and feels it everywhere, inside and outside. Luisa, happy creature who the divine will's universal acts has surrounded on all sides in a way that she cannot go out of God's will. Luisa, creature who lives on earth as one lives in heaven. Luisa, Jesus' good daughter. Luisa, the soul who forms the passport in order to enter into the interminable confines of the kingdom of the Fiat. Luisa, one who the whole of heaven runs to help. Luisa, fortunate creature in whom Jesus takes a place and feels loved by her with his own will. Luisa, fortunate creature in whom Jesus wants to remake himself, to form another Jesus in her. Luisa, whose acts in the divine will enclose incalculable merits and goods. Luisa, one who the whole of heaven runs to help. Luisa, so rich, beautiful, and holy as to let the triune God boast before the whole celestial court. Luisa, greatest prodigy of the divine will's creative art. Luisa, in whose veins flow a divine blood, in the same life that animates her Creator, that renders them inseparable. Luisa, creature who, if one wants to find God, can find Jesus in his place of honor in her. Luisa, creature who one can find in the divine center. Jesus and Mary, I glorify you and I praise you, one with Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, little sister of God's created works. Luisa, who God's created works feel honored to have in their midst. Luisa, who the divine will conducts in its arms into the womb of the Supreme Being. Luisa, little daughter of the Supreme Being's volition, who, like a little stone cast into the interminable sea of the divine will's attributes, makes the water of the sea ripple, moving all the sea of the triune God's divine being. Luisa, who swims in the sea of the divine will and drowns with love, light, sanctity, wisdom, goodness, etc. Luisa, creature whose littleness acts as queen in the divine being, reuniting their immensity and power together. Luisa, who makes the divine being ask themselves what she wants and they want. Luisa, little tiny one who is little and powerful, enriched with the prerogatives of the Supreme Being's qualities, as if they were hers. Luisa, little tiny one, who the Supreme Being's qualities gives such charm of beauty as to enrapture them, debilitate, then to make them do what she wants and what they want. Luisa, the Supreme Being's echo. Luisa, who only asks that the divine will invade everything and form one single will with all creatures. Luisa, who possesses the divine volition and all possible and imaginable goods. Luisa, whose littleness wants the divine will to embrace everything and constitute itself life of everything. Luisa, one whom everyone is with, heaven, the saints, the angels. Luisa, one who places herself in communication with everyone and commands everyone that they help, defend, and act as cortege to her with their company. Luisa, one on whom grace smiles. Luisa, one in whose soul the light shines and administers the best, the most beautiful in her act. Luisa, one in whom Jesus remains occupied and makes his acts flow in her acts. Luisa, one who feels the connection with everyone, the strength, the support, the company, the defense of everyone. Luisa, one who can be called the refound one of creation. Luisa, one who is the daughter of everyone. Luisa, one who is the sister of everyone. Luisa, one who is the friend of everyone. Luisa, one who acts like the sun that from the heights of its sphere rains light, and expanding it encloses everything in its light. Luisa, who acts like sun that gives itself to everyone. Luisa, who acts like sun that doesn't deny itself to anyone. Luisa, who acts like sun that as faithful sister it embraces all things and gives its beneficent effect to each created thing as pledge of its love. Luisa, who acts like sun constituting itself life of the effect it gives. Luisa, who the divine will surrounds, embraces, warms, and molds to mature her and enclose in her its admirable life. Luisa, creature with the life of the divine will, who is with everything and everyone. Luisa, Jesus' blessed daughter. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his volition. Luisa, in whose soul Jesus can freely do what he wants to operate the greatest things. Luisa, in whom the divine volition forms for Jesus the space to where he can place the sanctity of his one infinite act. Luisa, the soul who places herself at the Supreme Being's disposition. Luisa, who is adaptable to the divine will and receives the creating and operating virtue of the Supreme Being. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter of his volition. Jesus and Mary, I praise you and I thank you, one with Luisa, who springs forth light and forms the enchantment of God that enraptures his divine pupil. Luisa, creature who the divine pupil looks at and forms there the exchange of sweet enchantment. Luisa, happy creature who acquires the power of making the divine will hers and powerfully loves it more than her own life.
You have reached the end of day 29 of the Titles of Luisa. Fiat.